Hi everyone, it's Debbie with Book and Bujo. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. Join me today for my October wrap-up. I got all of my October stats and readathon information all ready to go, so let's dig right on in. To start with, I read 36 books in October. That's a lot. I listened to almost 217 and a half hours of audiobooks, read 12,818 pages with an average rating of 4.3. Not surprising, I read 18 fantasy books, 1 sci-fi, 4 horror, 3 classic, 1 contemporary, 1 thriller, 1 paranormal, 1 mystery, and 1 historical fiction. It's definitely a wide range. For our audience, I did read 1 children's book. That was The Little Ghost Quilt's Winter Surprise, which was just adorable. And then 1 middle grade and 9 YA, 3 new adult, and 18 adult. For format, I did read 1 graphic novel, 4 novellas, 26 novels, and 1 picture book, which again was The Little Ghost Quilt's Winter Surprise. The shortest book I read, of course, was The Little Ghost Quilt's Winter Surprise at 48 pages. The shortest audiobook was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was about an hour and a half. Then for the longest book I read was Return to Edan by Philip Chase, and the longest audiobook was Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. I participated in 9 book clubs, 3 readalongs, and 9 month-long readathons. There was a lot in October. For stars, I gave 5 3 stars, 21 4 stars, and 6 5 stars. So it was a very good reading month. I read 8 new to me authors, 1 debut, and 23 books from authors I have read from before. And that is because I did continue with a few series. For format, I read 4 physical books, 8 digital, 4 audio, and then 16 total of mixed media. 11 of those was physical and audio, and 5 was digital and audio. And then lastly, I started 9 new series. Yes, I continued 13, I completed 2, and then I read 14 standalones. I think my favorite book of the month for October was Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. My favorite author was also Jay Kristoff. And my favorite character was definitely the Little Ghost Quilt. That was just adorable and brought me so much joy. The standout YouTuber that I watched the most in October was Amanda from The Reading and Writing Life. If you have not checked out her channel, please do so. She is amazing, and I will link her down below so you can check her out, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for her because you never want to miss anything. My favorite podcast would be from Dr. Eric Osansky, and he is a hyperthyroid and Graves' disease specialist. My favorite movie, I think, was Girl Haunts Boy, although we did watch quite a few good movies. And favorite music, I think the one that kind of was stuck in my head or playing in my head quite often during the month was "Oh Come to the Altar," and that one is a great song. And then lastly, we watched a few different TV series. I mean, we're still loving Stargate Atlantis. That's probably one of our favorite Stargate series. But also we watched the Halloween edition of Is It Cake? And that was just so much fun. If you have not watched Is It Cake, it is hilarious. They don't take the show or themselves too seriously, and I love that. It's just a lot of fun. Okay, what did I read in October? A lot. So I will scooch over a bit here so I can put the book covers all up here. So I did read Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and that was one of the series that I started and will probably not continue with. Just the whole kind of mafia style romance books aren't really my cup of tea. I thought it was good. It was fine. I had no problem with it, but it's not one I would seek out to continue. I did finish the series with this last book, Heart of the Fates by A.R. Colbert, and I love that series. I think the prequel novel or novella is Shadow and Soul, I believe, and then you had Eye of the Fates and Heart of the Fates, and it was really good. So our main character is a fate, and they have like these crystal balls that they can look into and for each person and see what their fate is going to be. And they kind of protect these globes. And to become a fate, you're kind of born with the gift, and someone comes in and kind of takes you from your home and it brings you to where the fates are and raises you up as a fate. It's definitely an interesting series. It's a little bit tropey, but that's okay. It was fun, and it's not necessarily the best written thing out there, but it was definitely entertaining. It's kind of one of those popcorn reads where you can get through it really quickly, and it's very enjoyable, and it was just a lot of fun. The writing style is very easy to read. Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. And then I read Isolation Island by Johnny Moscato, and that was really good. That had a nice creepy feel to it, and the characters are going to be on a reality TV show, and they have to, called Isolation Island, obviously, and they get dropped off at different points around this island, and so they don't have contact with anybody else, but all of the contestants are on the island somewhere. And then things start to go wrong, and it's an interesting little twist at the end that you kind of see but don't necessarily see coming, and yeah, it was good. And then, of course, was Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. Loved it. 5 stars. So good. Favorite book of the month. And of course, second book in the Empire of the Vampire series. 10 Incarnations of Rebellion by Vaishnavi Patel. And I love that one. I thought it was very interesting. It was a little bit different take on the Indian rebellion against the English rule at the time, but with more of a feminist spin on it. And it was very interesting. And then we have The Weaver and the Worm by Ben Galley. This one I also gave 5 stars to, and this is part of the Emaneska series, and we follow Farden in this one, and I loved it. So you get a little bit more backstory on all of these little novellas that are part of the Emaneska series, and I loved getting a little bit more on Farden because he is an amazing character. Not always the most likable character, but a great character nonetheless. And then I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and that was great. I don't know if it's my favorite of hers that I've read, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. And I read The Story of Oog, which just came out on November 3rd by Len Vlahos, and this was really cute. Originally, I thought it was a nonfiction, and then I started reading it. It was like, this is not a nonfiction. It is a satire. And it is hilarious. It's kind of like caveman times when they're just starting to get speech and starting to think and learn and all of that. That's the setting. And yeah, it's hilarious. It's all based around, like trying to figure out how to create your own fire, like realizing that lightning causes fire and like things like that. And it was just very funny throughout the whole thing. I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 3.5 to 4 stars. I think kind of rounding up a little bit, I gave it 4 stars. But I think if you break it down, it'd probably be more of a 3.5 for me. But yeah, it was good. I'm glad I read it. And the satire humor was on point. Next was The Raven Boys, graphic novel by Maggie Stiefvater, and this was great. It was a great refresher. So I would say if it's been a while since you've read the first book, and you want to get into the second book, but you feel like you need to reread the first one, get the graphic novel. It's a little shorter and faster to read than the original, just because it's graphic novel style, and it gives you all of the information to get you right into the second book or any of the other books in the series. And the artwork was beautiful. I thought it was very well done. Loved it. Next was a reread, and that was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I still really enjoy it. I think I actually gave this one 3.5 originally, and I would definitely give it a 4 now. It's got some good vibes to it, and I think it's easy to read, it's easy to follow, and it's a nice little short story that gives you kind of those Halloween-y vibes. And then I read The Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rees, and this one is it's not really a retelling, but sort of is. So it's based off of the Madwoman in the Attic in Jane Eyre. And it's kind of her story. So I thought that was really interesting, and I did enjoy that perspective. And this one is set in Jamaica, Dominica area, as the author is from Dominica. Next, I got into the second book of the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell, and that was Night's Shadow, and it was great. Again, this series has really good humor, and it's got great action, and it's just very interesting. There's always battle scenes, and there's the fun camaraderie and the comic banter back and forth between the different friends and the Greatcoats and the people they meet and all of that, and it's just a lot of fun. And then I got to the third book in the series of Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar, and that was The Church of Friendo, and I actually really enjoyed this. I had very low expectations going in because a lot of the people, when it came out, that read it were kind of disappointed. And I understand why, because there's really just one or two people from the original stories in this one, and a couple of them are really just mentioned. So you're really just getting the one perspective from anyone that was in the original 2 stories. But I still liked it. I thought it was interesting, and I liked the way it kind of morphed into its own little thing. Thought it was fun. Go into it with low expectations and you'll probably enjoy it. And then I read Dead Stars Part 1. This is book 3 in the Emanuska series by Ben Galley, and this was so good. I love the continuation of the story from the first 2 books, and you get to see Maura Farden's journey as well as some of the other characters that played a little bit of a backseat role in the first couple of books, and they are much more front runners now, and I loved it. I highly recommend the Emanuska series. I love Ben Galley's writing. Another sequel that I read was What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, the second book in the Sworn Soldier series, and love this one too. The atmosphere of the books and just the characters are interesting. I mean, it's really just the one main character that you follow from the first book that's also in this one, but it's a great character. I liked the atmosphere of this book. It's a little different than the atmosphere in the first one, but I liked kind of where things progressed and where things went in this story as well. And I think there's more talk of mushrooms in this one too, but not quite the same role they had in the first book. The next sequel I read was Hellbent, the second book in the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo, and I actually really liked this one as well. I remembered a whole lot more from the first book than I thought I did, which is good. I was like, am I going to have to get a refresher? Maybe I should watch somebody's summary video before I get into it. But as soon as I got into it, it brought me back, and I remembered a lot of the things that happened in the first one. And then was the Little Ghost Quilt Winter Surprise, which was so cute and so heartwarming. And then I realized it was the second book in a series. And I immediately went to my library's website and put on hold the first book in the series. And I think it just came in, so I'm going to go pick that up on Monday. But it was just brought me so much joy. It is so cute. It's just a children's picture book, but it was adorable and so sweet. I challenge you to read this book and not have a smile on your face by the end. And because it was about a quilt, so I brought it to my mom and my aunt, and they both enjoyed it as well. Next, I read Blaze by Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King, and this one, I feel like I like more, as much as it was hard to read Misery and The Mist and some of those, I think I still like that type of his writing a little bit over this one. And I don't know why I don't think they're really that different, especially with Misery. I mean, The Mist, it was more of a supernatural element to it, but with Misery, there's not. And this one, there isn't really either. Well, actually, but there's a little paranormal in there, but it wasn't a favorite. I liked it. I enjoyed my time reading it, but it's not one I would want to purchase to put on my shelves. So it was good, not amazing, 3.5 stars. But I can see why some people would love it. But I actually did put it on my TBR because I was on Team Blaze for the Long Walk Readathon, which was all based on Stephen King books. And then continuing my continuation of series, I read the third book in the Earth-Sea Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin, and that was The Farthest Shore, and I did enjoy this one as well. I still think the first book is the strongest, which I believe most people kind of agree with that too, but I would like to continue with the entire series because I do like them enough to keep going. And then I did read another book from Paul Tremblay, decided to give him another try, and I read Horror Movie, and I loved it. I thought this book was great. So I think it was just that one book wasn't quite for me, but it's not the author that's not for me. It was just that one particular book. So I did really enjoy Horror Movie. I liked the premise of the book, and I loved the ending. It was amazing. And then I finished a series, and that was by Jake Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, the Illuminae Files series, and the third book was Obsidio, and I loved it. Another 5-star. I loved how things wrapped up and how things progressed, like the back and forth between some of the characters, and yeah, I loved it. There is still a novella that I would like to read, and my library does have that, so I will get that and get that read. Memento, I believe it's called, and then that series will be completely complete. I read the 3 main books, but I still would like to get to that one, the novella. And then I read Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and this was really good. I wouldn't say it's a new favorite, but I did really enjoy it. I could see it being one that I revisit in the future to see how my thoughts may or may not change on it, but I thought it was very interesting. I love how each of the different kind of people groups chose a different god to kind of focus on, but yet they all kind of have similar beliefs, so it's fun, that kind of interesting. And the quote on the back of this one says, "I am the only storm that matters now, and there's no shelter from what I bring." Very interesting. I did really like this character. He was very intriguing. And then I read Conqueror's Blood by Zamil Akhtar, and this is the second book in the Gunmetal Gods series, and this was also really good. And I am surprised also at how much I remembered from the first book, because it's been a year or so since I read the first book. So I was a little unsure how much I would remember, but I was able to get right back into the story and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would highly recommend the entire series of Gunmetal Gods. Next, another 5-star read that was very heartwarming and just super sweet and fun, with not all characters being super sweet though. And that was A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, and I loved every minute of that book. I just thought it was a great read. The writing style was easy to read, the characters were interesting and a lot of fun, and I loved all of their interactions. Another series that I continued was the 4th book in the Gateway Tracker series by E.E. Holmes, and that was Portraits of the Forsaken, and I am so glad I got back into this world. I love the characters, and of course they're twins, and I have lots of, 3 sets of twins in my family. So it's fun to read about twins. I always thought it would be fun to be a twin, but it's enough that there's already 3 sets of twins in our family. I don't think we need any more. It's hard to say too much without giving away spoilers, but it's paranormal where the twin sisters interact with ghosts and are able to work with them and help them to move on. Next up, Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. This is the 6th book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, but also the 1st book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the senior year adventures, or the senior year adventures. Anyway, it was so much fun. I love getting back into the Percy Jackson world because it will always hold a special place in my heart. It just was a lot of fun when I found them. My husband and I were commuting 4 hours one way to work and back. We didn't do it every day, but we would go up on one day and then a couple days later we would head back. And so it was almost like living 2 different lives. But I would read these aloud as we drove, because that was before audiobooks were really big and everything. So I would read them aloud while my husband drove. And so we got to experience all of the Percy Jackson books together, and it was a lot of fun. Next up was a surprising read. I didn't know anything about this one. This one was a TBR jar, and I believe I got it free from one of your Stuff Your Kindle days. And the cover was intriguing, so I snagged it. And after reading it, I was like, oh, this was good, but didn't really think much of it. But I kept thinking about it later, and little scenes from it would pop into my head. And so I would definitely give this one 4 stars. And it was just so fun. It was interesting. I liked the characters. They're almost kind of human clones, like they're like the next generation kind of a thing for some of the characters. And then you also have humans. The clones aren't necessarily called humans, but they're some kind of a hybrid. And then there's also elves, and I think there's a couple others. There's dragons, and it's a fantasy, and it was very interesting. And there's shifters, so there's dragon shifters in the book as well, which I'm not a huge shifter fan. I don't mind them, but I'm not going to seek them out. But I thought it worked well in this story, so that was good. But I don't know why it has stuck with me. So I will definitely be continuing with the series. And that is by Shannon Pemrick. And then I finally read The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty, and this is the first book in the series, and I loved it. It was so cute. It was very interesting. Pirate stories, always love those, little pirate adventure. And I love that the captain is a female and she has a very commanding presence, and she is actually been retired to take care of her family, and she gets brought back into the game, so to speak, to go on one last adventure and let's get the gang back together and everything. And yeah, it was a very interesting story. I had a lot of fun. There's some very interesting characters in this book as well. And then another book that I was a little concerned, because I've kind of read all of the books like a year-ish apart, and that's Return to Edan by Philip Chase. It's the third book in the Edan trilogy, and I was a little concerned, just, am I going to remember what's going on? But with each book, I easily remembered. Once you start getting back in the story, you easily remember what was going on, and I thought it was a great conclusion to the series. I loved all of the characters, and I can see what authors have influenced Philip Chase in the writing of this trilogy, between J.R.R. Tolkien with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as well as Tad Williams with the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series. I can see those kind of influences in this book, and I loved it. It's adventure fantasy, and there's times where you're journeying, so things are maybe going a little bit slower pace, and then there's these battles and action scenes where things are just happening fast paced and they're going and then kind of die back down. So it's a nice little ebb and flow throughout the story, and I loved it. All right, two more. I read Spiritbound, which is the fifth book in the Vampire Academy series by Rochelle Mead, and I am enjoying where the story's going. I think it's interesting. I think the whole series is very interesting. And it was actually really funny. So I went to the library because book 6 was ready for me to pick up, Last Sacrifice. And I, like my mom and I always do, we go up to the little library for sale section and look through the quarter books, and they actually had this one as a quarter. I don't have any of the others in the series on my shelf, so I didn't actually get it, but it was really funny because I was walking around with this and then I saw that. It was funny. Anyway, I do like where the series is going. It's interesting, and I want to say there's a little bit of a love triangle in the last couple of books, but it's not like Twilight love triangle. It's not quite so intense as that, but there is a little bit of something there, and I'm kind of liking how that triangle is moving and the directions that the three characters are going in. So we'll see what I think after reading the last one. And then lastly was Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery, the first book in the series. And this one is another reread, and I love this series. I just had so much fun. It doesn't matter how many times I read it or how many years have gone by before I kind of jump back into it again. It just is always just so nice and comforting and cozy to get back into the story. I love the characters. I love Anne Shirley and Marissa Cuthbert and even Rachel Lynn next door and Matthew Cuthbert and Gilbert Bly and Diana, and they're all amazing. It's like coming home and hanging out with your family. So if you have never read that book, it is just amazing. I think the first interaction I've had with that, I think I was actually 19 and I watched the movie because my aunt and uncle had it and I was staying at their house, and my aunt said that I had to watch it because I would love it, and I absolutely had to watch it. So I did, and she was right, and I loved it. And then my sister got me the mashup book where it had all, the physical book, which had all, I think it had 5 of the stories in it. And I read all of those and I loved it. And then after a few moves, I no longer have that one, but I did get the full 8-book collection on my Kindle. So I do have that now, especially for younger kids. If you're middle school, junior high, early high school, I think you would get a lot out of Anne of Green Gables. All right, now let's move into some readathons and see how I did. For the long walk, I did finish 2 rounds worth of the game board, And there was 20 prompts, so you basically could do those 20 prompts and then that's it, no repeats. You had to do each prompt only once, and so I did that. Unfortunately, my team came in last, I think. We were third or fourth, I think, but that's okay. We still had a lot of fun reading. And then for This Witch Reads, I did get all of those done. I got a blackout on the board, which was great. I had a lot of fun with that one. And for TBR Harvest, I did fairly well. I didn't color in as much as I wanted to, but I did really well with The Pumpkin Patch. And that was just such a cozy, fun readathon. Loved it with Leandra, the TBR 0. And I will have all these readathons linked down below in case you want to check them out and subscribe to them for next year's rounds. And then we had the Spooktober Readathon, where we started with the game board, and if you made it to the haunted house up here at the top, then you got to go into the house. And my team almost made it. Almost made it. I think we came in second place. We didn't quite escape because if you didn't make it into the haunted house, you became the ghosts inside the house. So each team of ghosts got paired with a team that was in the haunted house trying to get out, and whatever that team read during the month and whatever the ghosties read during the month, whatever the ghost read was those pages were subtracted from what the team read, and that made it really fun. It was a great concept. Loved it. And then for the Relax and Readathon, I had a lot of fun. I actually hit almost every spot on the board. I feel like hit a lot of free spaces too. And then the Bewitched spell book, I did fairly well. I completed quite a few of the different prompt categories, like Familiar's Blessings and Veil Whisper, Emberwoods, Future Sight, and Draft of Dreams. And then I also completed Gothtober, which was a very fun readathon. And then I completed my Escape the Room from the Hollow Weekend readathon. The only thing I missed was this one piece of equipment up in this last room. I got everything else, all the ghosts and equipments, all the other rooms. And then lastly, we had Fabelin. And again, my team didn't win, but that's okay. The fun is in the playing. And it was definitely a lot of fun. I did complete each day's activities as well as each day's downtime activities, at least one downtime activity, except for one day. I didn't get the downtime activity for that one, and mainly because the books I was reading were really big. And that was it for October. So how many books did you read in October? Did you go overboard with the readathons like I did? And I hope you had a lot of fun with that, and I look forward to catching you in my next video. So if you made it this far, leave me a pumpkin emoji to let me know that you were here. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!